Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Comics and Chronic. Anthony Iannaccio here. I'm not the only Tony on the podcast though today. We got Jake here, we got Cody here, and we got Tony Fleecs in the house today.
The Fleeceman.
Hey, my little Tony.
My little Tony. Yeah.
Hey Tony, you definitely heard all of what we just said. So
everything we just said. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Sorry, I missed last time. I was just high out of my mind.
Hey man,
Hey, that's all good.
That's for a stoner podcast.
Excuse.
That's the perfect excuse.
Yeah, the best excuse we could have heard.
I was working, but I figured I would just try and play to my audience.
Do you smoke weed?
No, I don't. I take gummies from time to time, but I am so incredibly busy that when I take them, it's just naps and vibing, and I don't have time. So, like when I go on vacation, I'm high, and when I'm working, I'm not high.
Nice.
That makes
fair.
sense.
Can't do it. All my anxiety is what makes the work good.
This is the only work I can do high. Any other work, I like my day jobs, even my stand-up comedy, I cannot do high at all.
Your audience, I'm sure, appreciates it. You know.
Wait, Cody, so when you say you can do this, are you sure about that?
Yes. I mean, it took 3 years, but we're here.
Well, Tony, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Sorry again for missing last time. I felt terrible about that shit.
No worries
it's
at
all
all.
good. We made a post about it. We told everyone what a piece of shit you were. So it's all good. Just kidding.
This guy is wrong. He sucks.
Yeah, exactly. No, we appreciate you coming on. It's funny. I actually just finished last night, volume 1 of Stray Dogs.
The only volume they have Dog Days, but Stray Dogs is
Stray Dogs. I have the other volume too, which you signed at LA Comic Con actually.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
The money goes right in my pocket. I don't have to split that publisher.
Stray Dogs. What a comic! I read it a couple years ago. My buddy had lent it to me, and I read it. I got up. I was staying at his house because I was on the road, and he let me borrow it while he was at work, and I just read it the entire afternoon. And from Jump Street, I mean, the horror covers alone had me hooked. But yeah, big fan.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, we're super happy with that book. Up until getting Feral up and running like it is now, I was sure that Stray Dogs was going to be the best comic I ever made.
Nice.
So I was always happy when people liked it as much as we liked it.
What is the inspiration between Feral and this, your use of animals and the horror element?
What's the inspiration?
Yeah.
Well, Trish and I both, Trish Forstner, the artist of Stray Dogs and Feral, we both came from working on My Little Pony comics. I drew My Little Pony comics from 2012 to 2019, 2020, maybe just tons and tons. I did 50 issues. I did hundreds of covers.
Oh, wow.
And it really sort of changed the way that my brain worked when it came to thinking about story ideas and stuff. Just because before that, when I would think up stuff, it would always just be this thing happens to this guy or this thing happens to this lady. And I never would think this thing happens to a dog or this thing happens to a pony or, but living in that sort of cartoon anthropomorphic world for so long, I just started to think about things in that way. I would have story ideas that would be more, what if this happened to a rabbit or what if this, and so when I had the idea for the killer in Stray Dogs, it was very quickly that I thought well, we should tell this from the point of view of the dogs. And that's sort of how that, it's something that I wouldn't have considered. It would have just been an idea I had and sort of let it pass if I hadn't been so steeped in telling stories about animals and stuff.
It's such a genius idea, though. I think everyone kind of reacted the same way when they found out about Stray Dogs. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I kind of think about it. I really look up to I think everybody that draws cartoony and tries to make their own comics looks up to Skottie Young if they're my age, because he sort of did it better than I've ever seen. He's just
he's so good.
Never had to try and draw serious. He always drew cartoon. He was always himself. And then he also, the thing I thought was so cool that he did Wizard of Oz for 10 years or whatever. And then when he came out of it, he had something to say about it, and he made that Fairyland book, and he owned it. and he got to do a story that you can only do if you had all that time spent in making Wizard of Oz comics, right? And so I feel like that's sort of what Stray Dogs and Feral and all these like animal horror books are sort of like the equity that I put in working in My Little Pony for all that time is sort of me taking it out for these books.
Do you have like, because we talk about like movies like this a lot on the podcast, whether it be like Homeward Bound or something like Milo and Otis. Do you have like that kind of animal movie that you watched when you were younger?
Oh, for sure. But I mean, both of those, Milo and Otis, all day long.
Milo and Otis, baby.
Love Milo.
That frog's like Otis.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
that movie was like years of my childhood dedicated to that movie.
I think it's Dudley Moore's best movie. I don't think he's ever done anything better than that. But at least that I saw. I saw Arthur and Arthur on the Rocks. I didn't care about those as much like the narration and Milo and Otis. Yeah. I love those. I'll tell you what else I love is Rover Dangerfield. I think that's a great.
I used to watch that all the time.
I've never seen
Super good, underrated.
Yes.
But yeah, live action dog movies. It was Milo and Otis #1, Homeward Bound like a far #2, and then we're talking about like Benji, Look Who's Talking 3, these types of things.
Look Who's Talking 3. That's hilarious.
Forgot about that
one. Beethoven.
Oh yeah, Beethoven. We saw a lot of Beethoven in my house.
Yeah.
We were Beethoven heads. I was the oldest of 5 kids, and so I would get to see the kids' movies for like when I would be old enough for them, and then again for the whole rest of my life, because like there was always somebody younger than me coming up that was still trying to watch.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm the oldest of 4, so same thing.
Same deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I love one of my favorite things about Stray Dogs is the way you toyed with the dog's memory and stuff like that. I was like, this is like a horror memento with dogs.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that came from my old dog. We would go on walks all the time. And it seemed like every time we would go for a walk, it was like her first time. Like she just didn't know which way we went, what we were supposed to do, what lawns we're not supposed to go on. Like every day she was just, at first I thought she was like testing me, but then I'm just like, she just does not know. Like she forgets from day to day where we go, what the path is that we take. Just, you know. So, and I thought about it like that. Like there's things that they definitely remember, you know, and then there's things that they just sort of let go. And so I tried and work that into it worked really perfectly for the setup of being held captive by a murderer, you know?
So are you a dog person or a cat person? Because it sounds like that's like you're drawing from like personal, or do you have like a pet cat too that inspired Feral?
I do not have a pet cat. I had outdoor cats. So I'm working on Feral and I'm like, I should get a cat so that I can just really, you know, be a part of this world, be zoned in on this. I've had cats before, but I don't have one right now. And there were these backdoor like neighborhood cats that would hang out in the backyard. And I was like, all right, well, we're making a good karma. I'm gonna start feeding these guys, you know, give them little treats and stuff. And so I got like bags of Friskies, and I'd take out little treats for them. I'd see them running around, and they loved it. We loved each other. We were having a wonderful time. And then they started living under my house, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice for them. You know, they could live here. I'm about to be making money off cats, and I feel like I need to be giving back to the cat community. Right?
Sure, yeah.
I need to be a good ally." So, but then they just started to pee down there constantly. I feel like all they were doing down there was just sleeping and peeing. And so when it rained out here in LA, the ground would just like get moist and then give up the smell of cat pee to my, like, it was just like a ammonia.
It's like ammonia, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. So then I asked my buddy, and he was like, you have to get an exterminator. And I was like,
Whoa.
I'm not trying to get an exterminator while I'm trying to get numbers
That's
on
an extreme.
Yeah, that's so extreme. It's a really nice way of saying you need to kill those cats.
Kill the cat. I was like, karmically, there's no, I will live in pea stink if that's what it has to be. But then another friend was like, you don't have to get an exterminator. You just have to get under there and spread, ironically spread cat litter around. But then you got to seal it up so that they can't get under there to the cat litter. Imagine you're a cat, and then there's just a ton of cat litter, but you can't get to it. It's got to be driving them crazy. That's what we did. It soaked up all the pee. So I'm like an uncle for these cats. I still will feed them treats sometime, but I don't want them to live under my house or pee in my garden any longer.
Nice.
A reasonable thing.
Yeah.
Nice. So how many issues of Feral are out now?
0. It doesn't start coming out until the 27th.
Nice.
I sent you guys PDFs, right? Or did I?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you've probably seen the first at least 1 or 3 of them.
Yep.
But it's an ongoing series, so it'll start coming out on March 27th, and then the first arc is 5 issues long, and then we're just going to keep rolling after that. I think we'll probably do what Saga does and take a month off for the trade.
Nice.
What Saga used to do back when Saga came out, like Clockwork.
Yeah. The good old days.
Yeah. Salad days.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're so no issues are out yet, but we're working way ahead because it's a real grind making comics, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't fall behind. So we're working on issue 7 right now. So we've got just like a ton of them ready to go.
So I was able to read the first 3 issues earlier. Thank you for sending them, by the way. That's awesome.
Of course. Yeah.
So it immediately it feels like The Walking Dead with cats. Like that's, I guess, the way I could think of it. There's like a rabies outbreak. They're in a forest. We're kind of right in the middle of everything happening. Like we kind of get hints of what happened, and the characters are already really fast established. They're just cats, but I already could like feel connected with them.
Yeah.
Like what made you think of like the combination of this coming off of Stray Dogs?
Well, we wanted to do something. We knew we wanted to do something with cats, but we didn't want it to just be stray cats. We didn't want it to be cats and a serial killer. We wanted to figure out a way to keep doing the process that we're doing and keep working in that sort of like that subgenre that I feel like we didn't really create it. Like there's already Beasts of Burden, and there have been like sort of like horror animal comics, but I feel like we sort of did it better than anybody ever did it,
Yeah.
So like we wanted to stay in that lane and keep making comics like that, but we didn't want to do just the same thing over again. So a lot of that was figuring out what we could do differently, but would still get the same result of having us make a comic that was a horror comic about animals. So I'm a huge fan of horror movies, and I like all kinds. Like I like slasher movies, and I like infection movies, and I like zombie movies, and I like giallo movies, and like witch movies and ghost movies, all of it. Like I like all that shit.
Yeah.
And so that means we made an animal horror comic, but we just made the serial killer kind. So there's a million other horror comics you could still make with animals, a million other kinds of animals. So it was just about figuring out like what fits best with these cats and what fits best as a follow-up to this thing, which was completely different. Stray Dogs is all indoors. It has one killer. This is all outdoors. The whole world is after them. Like it's sort of like as different as we could make it. And then we had that memory thing in Stray Dogs, and we wanted to make the cats different than dogs. So the cats have, they still don't have like full human brains. Like they don't like know what pop culture is or know what how a can opener works or whatever. But they do have better memories. They can keep hold of things better. And I like the idea of that, because then you can have them like hold a grudge or keep secrets from each other, or like, do cat-like stuff where you hear my dog just flipping
What
out
kind of dog,
over
man?
here.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's a bull terrier. He's
Nice.
he's either trying to get comfortable or he's going to start humping this pillow like crazy. We'll see.
Nice.
We'll know in 1 second if he
Attaboy.
pops down or if he really gets after it.
We wait with anticipation.
I think it's going to be just plop down. But
Oh, that's too bad. I was kind of hoping it would be some humping.
well, if he started humping, that would be the end of this call. To take this outdoors or something, he really makes a lot of noise. He's a frustrated guy.
Does Feral and Stray Dogs take place in the same universe?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes and no. Like I think of it as the same universe for sure, but probably like different sides of the country or something.
Okay.
Where I just don't want the dogs to be trapped in this rabies outbreak. Like we love those characters so much, and we already put them through so much, and I feel like a responsibility to that story and to those characters to just not, like remember in Alien 3 when just Newt was dead?
Yeah.
What did we go through all that for? I feel like that with Stray Dogs. Like, they are okay. They made it to wherever they made it to, and they're living good lives, and they're not going to end up in a zombie rabies nightmare.
Okay, so there's no plan to ever merge the like. Will they ever meet?
I mean, I've said before, like, that's how you'll know if the numbers are dropping, is if just like shows up on the cover.
Nice.
Oh. So reading Stray Dogs and looking at all the cover variants and stuff like that, you mentioned being a big fan of horror. Quick fire from the hip. Can you do like a top 5? Obviously subject to change depending on mood, but like off the top of your nog.
Top 5 horror movies?
Yeah.
Suspiria.
Nice.
Original 1977. 77? Halloween 1.
Nice.
First Exorcist.
Hell yes.
Scream.
Nice.
And number 5, I'm going to throw, this is the one where you're just like, come on, bro. I'm going to say Fall from 2 years ago, the one where it's on a tower and they're
Oh, really? I've heard such good things.
Bro,
I've heard
terrifying.
such good things, and I haven't watched it. Is it on Netflix?
I don't know. I wouldn't even go near it again if you paid me. It's so scary.
Are you? Is that your fear? Are you
I'm
afraid of
scared
heights? Nice.
Yeah, not like, my mom is real terrified of them, and I find myself like similarly frightened of them. Like, if I can be up on a top floor of a building and I can be close to the window, and that's fine. But if it's like open air at all, like if you're on like a rooftop, I'll stay in the center. I'm not going out over towards. I don't need to go over towards the side.
Yeah.
That movie very scary for me. I mean, ask me tomorrow and I wouldn't mention.
Oh
that.
yeah. I mean, I feel like anytime anybody asks a top, throw out your favorites. You 6 months from now, they're going to be night and day different. It depends on mood, what I've seen more recently than others. What what I mean? Just what's been on my mind.
Yeah. I think The Exorcist would be in my top 5, no matter when you ask me, for sure.
Yeah.
Brutal. Like, so scary.
Terrifying. Like, literally the first movie I remember, like not from a young age, but like seeing as like a later teen and being kept up at night. You know what I mean?
Well, what's crazy is that, like, around that time there were so many, and so many that felt so real. Like Texas Chainsaw comes around that time too, and it's just like, I mean, it's just nightmarish, awful. Like, nothing feels real like that anymore, I guess. Or maybe sometimes it does. I don't know.
No, I kind of agree with
that. I guess Blair Witch felt that real. That's like 20 years ago now too.
Yeah. Blair Witch changed, like, a pop culture phenomenon. I don't think it gets its dues anymore. Like, I don't think people remember how, like, crazy it was and how, like, people like don't go camping.
I have never rewatched it since seeing it for the first time when it came out.
I rewatched it whenever that last one came out.
Does it hold up?
Yeah, the 2016 one, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
It holds up, and I think the 2016 one was overhated.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I didn't hate that.
I liked it too.
I also don't hate shaky cam. Like, I like all the Paranormal Activities too. Like, I think that's cool. It's not like I want every movie to be like that, but that shit is scary to me. It feels real.
And if somebody does it well, like, there's the iconic ones like Cloverfield and stuff like that.
I like Mothman Prophecies.
That was good too.
Yeah.
My favorite, I like the first Paranormal Activity, but then, like, at number 4, they do a Mexican one. And I was just like, this fucking, like, I talked about changing perspectives with Stray Dogs. Like, they just took Paranormal Activity and were like, whoa, just change perspective and just have it be Mexican people. And it was like a whole new genre. It was great.
Yeah.
Nice.
The marked ones. It was cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched the first 3, but I must have stopped after that. So I got to check that one out.
A little racist, bro. Come on. He's like, before, not for me.
Oh, that rules. We should have got you on the pod sooner.
How did you come to write for My Little Pony? Because until Anthony told me, I didn't even know that there was a My Little Pony comic. And then B, like I grew up with two sisters. I grew up with like the OG toys of My Little Pony, and I grew up with Care Bears.
Oh, hell yeah.
So like when I think about like, yeah, that's great. Like how did you?
Well, it's a very different thing now. Like My Little Pony had a reincarnation in the, what was it, late 2000s, early 2010s?
2010 was when the new show came on, and the comic that I worked on launched in 2012. But yeah, I worked a ton on My Little Pony, but I came to work on that book because I had a friend that we had worked on comics together, and I hadn't, it was like My Little Pony was like my first big, like getting hired to do stuff and actually making comics. Like I'd made indie comics before, but as far as like making a living at it, I didn't do that until My Little Pony. But my friend was writing Ninja Turtles, and he was like, you should do this issue. It was like an April O'Neil or like Casey Jones issue or something. And he was like, here's the editor's email, reach out and see if you could do it. And the editor was like, yeah, can I see some samples? And so I real quick knocked out samples for Ninja Turtles. And they were cool, but he was like, at the time, Nickelodeon it was like early in the IDW Turtles comics.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, Nickelodeon says you're too cartoony. And it's like a chip I have on my shoulder. I mean, not like that was the first time I was told that, but it stung. It fucking sucked because I was like, it's a cartoon. It's
how can it be too cartoony?
Which is interesting coming from Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon,
They have Doug and Rugrats, and they're like, nope, too cartoony for us.
You're dating yourself. They have so many.
But that editor, I had done those samples so quickly, and the editor could tell that I was a hustler. Like he was just like, this guy, I know he's going to get back to me. And, so they were talking about doing My Little Pony, and he just had, like, I was the last person he emailed or whatever. And he was like, hey, we are talking to Hasbro about doing this. Would you be interested in drawing that? And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, that sounds great. I was just psyched I was talking to a comic book editor,
Yeah.
And I had seen like one episode of the show, and so I sort of had a feeling for what it was. And he was like, can you do a sample of that? And so I did a sample of the ponies, and I really sort of pushed it a little bit where I was like, make this different than I didn't draw it like completely on model. I was just I thought I was like, oh, I'll do my own thing. And, like, who cares what my version of My Little Pony is? Like, just draw the thing that they want. But it was decent enough that they were like, okay, cool. We'll give you a call when the book started. And then when the book started coming out, they gave me a call, and I started working on it like from issue 1. I didn't draw the main book on issue 1, but I started doing covers then. And then there was just that first issue of My Little Pony sold like 100,000+ copies. Like, it was just
wow.
It was a sense. It outsold Batman that month.
Holy shit.
Yeah, because like nobody knew that there's this, I mean, people knew about bronies, and they knew about like the fandom of My Little Ponies amongst kids, but like, I guess nobody thought that would cross over to comics. But yeah, it took off. And so that was, like I said, it was just a job that I had for almost 10 years, where it was just constantly, there was always pony work to do. And so I drew it, I drew like 50+ issues and hundreds of covers. And then I was like, oh, I should write this. I want to be making comics, doing the whole thing. And so I asked the editor at one point if I could write stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, there's been a ton of times working in comics where it just turned out all I had to do was ask somebody, because we're already friends. We're already not friends, but like we email each other all the time. We're working together. They know that I turn stuff in on time and stuff. So I'm already ahead of the game. And so there have been times where I'm just like, can I do this? And they're just like, yeah.
That's awesome.
So then they let me write some of them, and then it all sort of led to, in 2020 or 2021. This is after Stray Dogs. A friend of mine who I met through working on ponies, she used to write like the novels, like when you buy a novel and it's like the Twilight Sparkles mini mysteries or whatever. She would write all those. And then from there, she got hired to write on the old show. And then she got the job to write the new movie that was on Netflix. And then she was like the showrunner on the Netflix TV show that's on now. And she was just like, hey, I get to hire one person to write on this show. Do you want to come write on this Netflix show?
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't even have final draft. I was like, yeah, all right. I made comic books.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that. I wrote like 5 episodes of that show.
Nice.
So is there like a part of your brain that knows like extensive My Little Pony lore?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I wouldn't be in any trivia battles with anybody who's like a brony or anything like that, but versus any of you, I could.
Of course. Well, no, because I want to ask, like, what's the craziest My Little Pony fact you could tell us that you know?
I mean, it's all crazy. Well, there's stuff that they wouldn't let us do that was always funny, like what we would run up against, and they were just like, no, we don't do that. The ponies don't do that. Or the stuff that they would want the ponies to do. Like I would get scripts where they would be like, this pony's sweeping up her house, and we're just like, well, how? How does she hold a broom? But then they would be like, this pony. We tried to do one where the Princess Celestia was about to sit on a whoopee cushion, and they were just like, absolutely not. Ponies don't sit. That's what you had an issue with, the sitting. And then I pitched a story where there's this character Fluttershy who's very shy and quiet. And she loves animals, and she like lives on this animal sanctuary. And I had this story where like one of those psychedelic frogs showed up and like started living in the pond next to her house and like tainted all of her water. So basically, like microdosing. and so she starts going crazy all the time, really partying, and people are like, she's really acting out of character. So it's supposed to be a lesson about if your friend starts acting differently, you should ask him what's going on. Like that was the lesson of the story. But Hasbro was like, they're like, yeah, we're not going to have any of the ponies do psychedelics. And I said,
no sitting and no psychedelics. What are you, crazy?
Those are two big red lines that I read.
No, that's awesome.
Hilarious.
So we actually recorded an episode. It hasn't come out yet, but we talked about Local Man as well. Another book you worked on. We loved Local Man. That was a great comic.
Awesome.
It's still going on. It's not over.
Oh, we know.
We know.
We're gonna still be doing it. We just covered the first volume.
The first volume, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. What was it? We recorded with Tim in the past.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, for Money Shot. Yep.
Yeah. And what was it like working with him? How do you feel about
about Tim?
You know what I'm saying? No, I meant like about the
talk
comment.
shit
Like
about
what's
Tim. You want to hear
Who does all the good parts of that book? Me.
Yeah.
I was just hanging out with Tim this weekend. We're good buddies. It's fun making a book with somebody who, like, me and him work about the same level of he probably works. I work very hard, and Tim also works very hard all the time. And I foolishly still draw comics, like I draw the whole Local Man. Tim is sort of like, he draws those backups in Local Man, but that's not true. He's told me this weekend he's drawn like a full YA graphic novel. He's a lunatic. We're both maniacs. We have way too much going on. But that is great to work with because, I mean, the team that works on Stray Dogs and Feral, the same deal. Like they're just constantly working on this thing. And Dave, who draws Uncanny Valley, constantly working on this thing. But with Seeley and me, because we both write it and we both draw it, we're just constantly sort of like going back and forth on these same things. And so it's a very, very, very collaborative. And it's just cool to work with him on that because he's great at collaborating. And so like we'll have ideas, and then it's really fun to sort of like take a thing and push it as far as we can, or like try and figure out what's the dumbest thing that we can try and make poignant or interesting. So yeah, it's been fun. We love making that book.
So is it like you guys are collaborating on the story, or do you have like complete free reign of your half of the book, or like?
No, it's fully, we collaborate on all of it basically.
Nice.
We come up with the story together. And then what usually happens is Tim will write the first draft, and then because it takes me longer to draw my part of the story than it takes him to draw his backup. A, because he's faster than me, and B, because it's only like 1/5 of the amount of pages.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll do the first draft, and then I'll do my draft, and then I'll start drawing, and then I also letter the book. And so it's just sort of like, we're just sort of like constantly working on it.
Pitching it back and forth.
Yeah, kicking it back and forth. And especially when we do things like Local Man Gold, or we just did this one shot Bad Girls, or if it ever happens in the comic that there's like a flashback on a page, or that like Jack feels super heroic on a page, like that's fun too, because we'll just actually send the pages back and forth, like Tim will draw certain panels on certain pages on my side. So yeah, it's super, super, super collaborative.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that second volume comes out, I think, in early April, mid-April. So
awesome.
You guys can cover that. So it'll be out soon.
Oh, we will. Don't you worry.
Will, yeah.
Yeah.
Get ready. The second volume, you're going to dig it.
No, it seriously was one of the best comics of last year, for sure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, stellar.
That second volume we're going to dig?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Second volume gets messed up. There is psychedelics in that book.
Nice. Are there ponies involved?
You can get ponies in. I feel like by the time the book's over, we'll get some ponies in there just to make it all work.
Just sitting in chairs all over the place.
Yeah. This is my book. Take a sit.
As a creator in general, do you have like, whether it's fleshed out on paper or in your mind, like a finite beginning to end story, or is it kind of as you go, you like see where it grows into and you write on the go?
Yeah, it sort of has evolved. When we first started working on it, we had like a little button that was at the end of it. And then the more we get into it and the more that the story sort of like, it gets deeper and it sort of has more meaning in certain places. It got to the point where like that ending that we originally had for it was a little too cute and wasn't necessarily like, it didn't really have the weight that the book I feel like will deserve when we get to the ending. So we know what the ending of it is, and the ending that it has now, whenever we get to it, will be, I feel like, pretty fitting. It's fun. It's really fun to do a book that is at the same time a lot about like disappointment and loss and sort of like not living up to your potential and all that. So like me and Tim were obviously going through shit when we were writing this, but to be able to do that and then also have it have like, Cyber Force in it and, like all these like 90s Image Comics superheroes in it that we grew up loving, like it feels really personal in a way that other people respond to, but it's very specific to us or people our exact age and that got divorced the same year we did, whatever.
No, it was, honestly, like, it was simultaneously a very like heavy and like there were lots of somber moments, but also like it wasn't, at least like artistically, it wasn't like dark. Does that make sense?
Well, so that's part of it where the Midwest of it is something that Tim and I both like. Tim's from Wisconsin. I grew up in Colorado, but my grandparents, all my aunts and uncles are all in Nebraska. And so there's this Midwesternness to the book that I feel like we really try and get as much humor into it through there. And so whenever the book feels super dour or super grim, like there's always some way to like make it personal and make it Midwestern in a way that makes it funny. That like, if you read that first arc, Tim wrote this bit that I love where, like he goes to see the Hodag's mom.
I was about to say Hodag is probably like the most depressing thing.
Yeah. His mom is so dark. And she's like
so dark.
And she's so like her son's been killed and she's going through this. And then she at the end of it, she just hugs him and she says, "Thanks for fucking that fascist wife," fucking. And he's just like, "Oh, I didn't, that's not really what I'm here for." I thought it was so funny that like, that would be something that it felt really real, but it was also funny, also sad. And like that was when we did that, I was like, that's the tone of this thing, is making people bummed out and laugh at the same time.
That's awesome.
I get it.
Hard book to sell, I gotta say. When you say bummed out, people don't really perk up. So I'm glad you guys are helping us spread the word.
Oh man,
absolutely.
Seriously, yeah, it's one of our favorites. I don't know. We just all loved it. I mean, I was a fan going into it from Stray Dogs. We all loved Money Shot, so it was a match made in heaven for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, I really I'm a huge fan of the title. It's like perfect because it's like what you read every day, especially in regards to like people like Florida Man. It definitely has like Florida Man vibes in there. This would only happen in some white podunk trash place.
We were at a signing, me and Tim, this weekend in Arizona, and somebody came in and they knew about Stray Dogs and they knew about Tim's DC stuff, and they're like, "What else you guys do?" And we're like, "Well, we do Local Man together." And he goes, "Oh, that's what that is. I just thought it meant you guys were from here."
That's so funny.
Yeah. So just like the execution and how he gets that name when he saves the priest, and it's just like Local Man saves priest, and I was like, oh, cool. Like,
yeah,
that's one of the things we always go back and forth with in the script. I don't think I've ever said it out loud to Tim, but he always writes into the script. People call him Local Man now, and I always change it to like he won't respond to that or he doesn't like to be called Local Man. I feel like Tim wants him to just be like, you can call me Local Man. We're always like going back and forth about how comfortable he is being Local Man.
Nice.
So
you've done way more independent, like creator stuff. Would you want to go back to like property? Like I hear the gratitude in your voice, but would you want to go back to like a major property and write for that kind of stuff again?
I mean, I will. We're working on stuff right now that.
Nice.
I write Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Currently.
Oh, awesome.
It's called Army of Darkness Forever. It's like the sequel to Army of Darkness, the director's cut and the regular ending. It's a 12 plus issue thing that like takes Ash from the end of that movie and sort of like bridges the gap to all the other stuff. So working on that. And then we're working on a secret Marvel thing. But ideally, what I would love to do is just create our own stuff all the time. Like I look at guys like Robert Kirkman and like, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips and like these people that never have to turn to anybody else for a job. And that sounds great to me,
Nice.
I'm a big Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips fan.
Yeah, they rule. Those books are great.
Single thing they put out is crazy.
Brian K. Vaughan's another one of those. That I think
absolutely.
I feel like he's going to do another, X-Men or whatever. He just makes up his own stuff all the time. I would love to do that.
Do you like read currently?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like? What are you currently reading?
Well, I like Beneath the Trees. That's cool.
Cool.
What's that?
You don't know about that?
No, I don't.
Oh, so Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees is like a serial killer book, but it is told it looks like a children's book. So it's real. Like if you like Stray Dogs, it's for you. It's drawn.
Yeah, it has similar vibes for sure.
Drawn in like watercolored, like a Richard Scarry comic or children's book almost.
Nice.
And it's about this bear, and she owns a hardware store, and she lives in this town with all these other animals, possums and ducks and stuff. And then in the middle of the first issue, we find out that she's also a serial killer, and she has to like leave her little idyllic town once or twice, like once every few months to kill someone. Otherwise, she starts to get twitchy and freak out. So she goes like far away from town and she kills this duck in the most brutal fucking way. Like she chops him up and puts pieces of him in paint cans and buries him under the ground in this forest. And then she goes back to town and she's like, that's how I can get by. That's how I, like she's doing this internal monologue the whole time. And then I'm spoiling the whole first issue. In the first issue, they're having this parade and this parade float comes through, and then there's like a mishap and the sail falls off of this boat in the parade float, and crucified on the boat is this goat that we met early in the thing. And now there's a second serial killer in town, and she knows that means that now there's going to be heat in her town. And if people start sniffing around, they're going to find, if they're looking for a serial killer, they'll find one. So it's like told from the killer's POV, but it's also this cute animal story. And there's another killer, so there's a mystery. It's fucking great.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's this guy that hasn't, didn't have any other comics that I was aware of. He just like came out of nowhere with this thing. It's an IDW book. It's really like they're on like their whatever printing, like that. It's selling a ton.
Yeah. Sells out so fast. Yeah.
And then I like, it's not coming out right now, but it's about to come back. Black Cloak by Kelly Thompson and Meredith McLaren at Image. It's like a fantasy futuristic detective story. So it's like if a fantasy like a Lord of the Rings or like a Game of Thrones world evolved into the time when they would have like cell phones and self-driving cars. I mean, it might be modern. It might be a little bit even more futuristic. Like there might be flying cars. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like futuristic and there's fairies and mermaids and stuff, right?
Nice.
But so that's the world they live in. And then the story is like a story of a police detective who is like a detective in that world. And so they have like, magic powers and there's princesses and stuff like that, but it's told like as a gritty detective story. It's fucking cool. And
Yeah,
the
that sounds
artwork is,
awesome.
Nice.
artwork almost looks like an indie video game, It's really it's tough to describe.
Oh,
Have
Super
you
cool.
ever, just based on what you've been saying and the anthropomorphic animals that you draw, and if you like Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, have you ever read Blacksad?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
I love Blacksad.
Favorite here, yeah.
yeah. One of our earliest episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I really can get anytime they do like anthropomorphic stuff and they do it in a genre or they put some twist on it.
That's your shit.
Yes, Usagi Yojimbo. I love that. There's Pride of Baghdad. Did you read that?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Brian K. Vaughan, yeah.
Brian K.
Brian,
Vaughan.
Brian K. Vaughan again.
Super, super good. It's about lions.
And then how did you feel about the did you read the DC Snagglepuss comic?
Oh yeah. Well, I love
Yeah.
Flintstones so much. And
Yeah.
Octopus also was great. That Mark Russell, that's like, I like that stuff that he did so much that I read everything by him for the longest time. And
Yes.
nothing ever hit as hard as Flintstones and Snagglepuss. Like
That's
I liked,
his top tier stuff, yeah, for sure.
I liked he did like Lone Ranger right after that. And I thought that was good. And his Red Sonja was pretty good. But yeah, those two were just like, boom, just like incredible.
Snagglepuss is
Incredible.
great.
Yeah. I really want to talk about Uncanny Valley because that's another new book you have coming out April 10th from Boom Studios. The vibes I'm getting right away are Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
We fucking love that movie. I think it's like that movie for all of us, really.
Yeah.
Is it that movie for you? Like it had like a huge influence.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, when that movie came out, it came out in 1988, so I was not even 10 years old, but I saw it in the movie theater. And I had seen cartoons and people together before. I had seen like The Incredible Mr. Limpet and like Mary Poppins. There had been things where there were cartoons and real people had shared the screen. And I loved it. But for whatever reason, I understood that like we couldn't do that all the time. Like that didn't work. It wasn't something that you could do. Because even in those movies, it was just for a scene, or like,
Right.
I'm going to do, they turned into cartoons for like a scene, But then when Roger Rabbit came out and they were just people in cartoons together for the whole movie, and it was all your favorite cartoons, and Bugs Bunny's there, and Mickey Mouse, and all, just crazy. And I remember I came out of it, and I just remember thinking like, well, that's how movies are going to be now. This is great. I can't wait to see the next movie where there will obviously be cartoon characters, because it's like, movies used to be in black and white, and then they figured out how to make them in color. Cool. That's what we do now. And then movies used to not have cartoons, and then they figured out how to do it. And so I assumed we would just always have cartoons from henceforth, but fucking they didn't do that. And so this book is sort of like my answer to that, like a gift to my young self that just always wanted everything to have cartoons. I still get excited when like Rescue Rangers came out. I was psyched. I'll see any Space Jam.
Rescue Rangers was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rescue Rangers was great. I loved it, honestly.
Right.
I watched
That with
it.
John Mulaney and
Andy Samberg,
Andy
yeah.
Samberg as Chippendale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in like the same world as Roger Rabbit, almost, I believe.
Yeah.
Seems like it would be like the modern day version of that.
Roger Rabbit, honestly, when I was very young, terrified me.
Judge Doom.
Yeah, he was terrifying,
Yeah.
especially that scene when his eyes pops out and he goes all high pitched and stuff.
Yeah.
That haunted me for years.
Yeah, terrifying. Also, like there wasn't a cartoon that I'd ever seen. All the cartoons in that thing, like Roger Rabbit, you could tell was sort of like a Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse mashup or something, right? Like
Yeah.
he was new, but you could tell what his lineage was. But there was no cartoon character that acted as crazy and as maniacal as Judge Doom's cartoon version, where he's like, "Remember me? I talk just like this."
Yeah.
I don't know what he was supposed to be like, but yeah, terrifying.
Terrifying.
That's true.
Such a good, like, iconic. Wait, why haven't we done that movie?
I know, right? We're
You
gonna
guys do commentaries?
Yeah. Oh no, we just do.
No, we just cover.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we're
Shit.
just like we cover comics, but we also did an episode on Titanic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we talk about whatever we are
Whatever we
feeling
damn
at the
please,
time.
yeah.
We've done a Game of Thrones. You know,
Sopranos. We did a
Sopranos,
whole summer
yeah.
full of Sopranos.
Summer
Big
of Sopranos.
fan. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously Roger Rabbit, a huge influence on this book. But it was sort of part Roger Rabbit and part. Did you guys read Planetary?
No.
Yes,
I
Oh
know
my
what
God,
you're
yeah.
talking about, but I did not read it.
So part of the premise of Planetary, is that there's this secret history to the world that we don't know about. There's this part of the world that we can't get to as regular people, but some certain people can get through to it, and certain people know about it. And in Planetary, it's all the pulp and genre stuff exists either in different parallel universes or just underneath the surface of our world, or it happens somewhere we don't know about it. So like Godzillas and kaijus are real, and like Hong Kong, gun fu, like the killer and hard boiled shit is real, and Doc Samson shit is real, and the shadow is real. All this stuff is real, and it's sort of like the secret history of our world. And I had this idea of what if there was that, but it was cartoons. Like what if, the very first, dinosaurs were that very first pencil test dinosaur that you see, like when they show you history of animation, it's like Gertie the dinosaur like takes a drink out of the water and like it drips out of her mouth, and then she turns her head, and like that took somebody like months to make. Winsor McKay, the same guy that did Little Nemo.
Oh.
And so that's the dinosaurs. And then you move forward and man shows up and it's Flintstones. And then you move forward and, it's colonial times and it's like Ben and Me. And, like this, like what if there's a history of the world and you put it together and it's all cartoons? And so like that was the first idea. And then I had this idea of like, all right, so then there's a kid who learns about this because he's part cartoon. So like he's a regular kid that finds out that somewhere in his bloodline he has cartoon in him. Like I'm a 16th, Wile E. Coyote or whatever. And so that's sort of like what the beginning of the idea was. And then as it went on, it's like an idea that I've been messing with and goofing around with for like 10 years. Because it's just sort of started in like these little ideas or these little scenes I would have ideas about. And I've sort of just been scribbling them down. And then as I've been developing it, the heart of the story took shape, which was it's a story about a boy who doesn't feel like he fits in. And he has a single mom and they move all the time because she's a traveling nurse. And he never can quite fit in. He always feels out of place. And then he learns through the course of the series that that's not just because he's a normal kid. Everybody feels that way, but he actually is out of place. Like he's part cartoon. He should be in a cartoon world. And so that part of him is pulling him to that. And then it's about this adventure where the cartoon world wants him and all this stuff that happens through the course of the series. But just the idea of making it about a kid that feels like he doesn't fit in and he's going through changes, all the stuff that you go through when you're a kid, and sort of have it be that, but also let him go on an adventure where he gets to hang out with cartoons and meet cartoons and like have cartoon powers and stuff. There's a lot of wish fulfillment. I feel like every kid, even if they didn't say it, thought to themselves like, what would it be like to be able to, be a cartoon or do, bounce around like a cartoon or, shoot fire like Mario or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like that's a video game, but he was also a cartoon. Bit of a stretch.
Without like spoiling it, the way you reveal that he's able to do that at like the beginning, that's really cool. And then just through the conversation with the mom, like subtly talking about it, and then you kind of get the explanation. I love the setup for this universe. Like I'm getting issue 2 without a doubt, but like everyone listening to this should get it because it's like it's so different. Like you're describing this like Who Framed Roger Rabbit world, but seeing it on the page is completely different. Like it's a comic, so naturally it's like animated, but like there's different animation within that, which is awesome.
And Dave Wachter, who co-creates it with me and who's drawing it and coloring it and doing all that, he does such a great job of drawing the real world real and drawing the cartoon world cartoon. But the real world's not just real; it's also like really beautifully painted, and it looks almost like you can feel what that kid's feeling just by the way he draws like the forest that he walks through and the way his bedroom looks and stuff. Like it just has a lot of emotion in it. And so when the cartoon, I feel like it was important to us to build that whole first issue where like you meet the kid, you see that he wants to fit in, you see his mom, you see their relationship, you see what she struggles with. And then by the time we get to cartoons, you should like really be in love with that family and be in that kid's head where he's at. And that all happens because of the way that Dave sort of like presented how real it feels and how identifiable it is. Yeah, I'm so happy to be working. I was just talking to him before I hopped on with you guys because we're working on one of the other issues and some cover stuff, and we just have a really great we've known each other for like 20 years. We worked together a couple times before on some small stuff, but being able to do something big like this and really give it our all and really try and make it the best it can be, we're having a great time.
Hell yeah. How do you do 45 projects at a time?
As we discussed, I only get high on vacation. I don't get high. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of at an all-time high right now, and there is sort of like there's a few comics that are going to finish up, and then my schedule will, like, Uncanny Valley is solicited as 6 issues, but if it sells well, it's 12 issues, and then it could go on after that. But so that's just limited. Feral's ongoing. Local Man is ongoing, and then Army of Darkness is I've got like 4 more issues of that to write, so that'll go away. Uncanny Valley will be done at some point, but yeah, right now there is sort of like a between now and July-ish is going to be real hectic the whole time. I don't know how, especially like this. So FOC for Uncanny Valley is on Monday, the 18th. So call your shop and let them know you want it if that sounds interesting to you guys.
Hell yeah.
But the promo for all this stuff, like Feral, we just got numbers in last week, so that was like a whole like a campaign almost. Like you're just like constantly out there. I'm doing all the podcasts, I'm doing all the interviews, and posting stuff on all my social media, and it's just like it's like a job on top of
itself. Yeah,
and that sort of slows down a little bit after the first issue solicits, and then it's just sort of like maintenance from month to month, and you don't have to do like a full push again until it's like a new arc or something, and eventually hopefully I'm just popular enough that I don't have to do it. Yeah. I'll still come talk to you guys.
Oh, there was
I
won't have to do every single podcast.
By the way, shout out to Timmy for helping to set this up. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, he's been coming up with a lot of good, like it's difficult to market these things in a world where everything that's going on, even the real world, is going on, and then everything that's going on in comics is going on, and gas is expensive, and raw meat's expensive, and chicken's expensive. Like everything costs a lot of money, and it's hard to get people to try something new, and especially when I'm somebody who just only wants to just make new stuff all the time. It's a tricky proposition to be in. Timmy's good at figuring out ways to get eyes on stuff or get people to see stuff. Do you guys know Timmy from the shop? How do you know Timmy?
We met him at LA Comic-Con, and I just kind of talked to him like on Twitter, online. So
yeah, he's a good dude.
Nice.
So he's at Arsenal Comics?
Yeah, in Ventura, and there's another one too. He's got 2 different shops.
You're in LA, right?
I'm in Van Nuys, yeah.
Okay, nice. I'm in Culver City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I met Timmy. I did a couple of Marvel variants for his shop. And he always has a good, like, he knows when there's angles on things, like when Stray Dogs came out and sold, Dynamite reached out and said, can you put dogs on our covers? And those guys are hustlers. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. Like Army of Darkness dog cover, and like one with Red Sonja and one with Vampirella. And Tim in Marvel or DC, I feel like still don't know about Stray Dogs. But Timmy did, and he was like, let's do a Hawkeye cover, but have it be with Pizza Dog.
Hell yeah.
So I did like a Kate Bishop cover with Pizza Dog for the new Kate Bishop series with him for his shop. And then I did another, like a Daredevil one with a dog. And so, yeah, he was the only person to be like, Marvel should have these as well. Well, it was cool. Nice. It was fun to draw a Hawkeye cover with that dog. I feel like I've wandered off into the weeds there, boys. Bring me back.
This was a great time, Tony.
Yeah, really appreciate
you so much for having me on.
Coming on, yeah.
Yeah, no, you were hilarious, honestly. Thank you for
definitely one of our funnier guests that we have.
I'm in this house all day making these comics, so it's nice to have an outlet, talk to some people. Especially when they just want to talk about all my shit. That's what I get bored when it's other people who want to talk. You guys ask all the right questions about me.
Well, hell yeah, it sounds like a good endorsement.
Dude, yeah, we'll be dropping this, and definitely I'm looking forward to your future stuff. Thanks for like Stray Dogs and just doing dope shit.
Yeah, man, absolutely. There's a bunch of stuff coming. I mean, even just the stuff we're talking about, that there's a lot of comics to buy from that. So, please check out Local Man, pre-order Uncanny Valley, check out Feral. If you haven't read Stray Dogs, check that out. Tons of stuff coming. So I appreciate you helping me spread the word.
Hell yeah, anytime. Come back.
Anytime, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to talk after Local Man Volume 2, I can't wait for you guys to read that. Honestly.
Oh, dude, we're pumped. It was one of our favorites of last year, no question.
Yep.
Cool. But yeah, have me back on.
We do have one last question, though.
Ooh.
Okay, so you've been on other comic book podcasts, right? I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. So here on Comics and Chronic, we like to rate things on a Joe Pesci scale.
Okay.
We rate comic books, movies, whatever we see. We rate them out of 6 being like primo Joe Pesci, 1 being, the least.
The worst. Wonder Woman 84, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Pesci's the top.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci's a 6.
6 the 6 on the Joe Pesci scale is the top, 1 being the lowest.
Yeah.
How would you rate this experience out of 6 Joe Pesci's?
I mean, I'm giving this definitely 6 out of 6 Pesci's. Prime Pesci's too. We're talking about like the Raging Bull. Casino Pesci's, not this.
All Scorsese Pesci's, Home Alone Pesci, My Cousin Vinny Pesci. Like
this ain't 8 heads in a duffel bag Pesci is what I'm trying. This is prime Pesci.
It's prime Pesci.
Did you fuck my wife Pesci? How could you say that? How could you ask me that?
Oh, thank you so much, man. Really
thank you. You've been a delight.
You too.
Take care.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jake F.H.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Comics and Chronic. That's Comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.